is Demetrius Phillips. I'm from Baltimore, Maryland. I attended Fordham University and the University of Bridgeport. I'm a graduate with a major in human services and a minor in psychology. Now I do work with special needs.
What's up, y'all? I'm Frank Taylor. I went to the University of Bridgeport as well. I was a major in journalism and a minor in literature. I'm a program director at an education firm focused on helping under-resourced students in poor communities. So.
My name is Cassandra Edmondson, 29, almost 30. I went to Chatham University in Pittsburgh, PA, and after that, I'm currently in grad school at the University of Alabama in Tuscaloosa. I'm actually a stay-at-home mom because I have 2 kids. My oldest is 10. She's my stepdaughter, and then I have a 2-year-old. So right now, I'm staying at home because I'm not paying $900 a week for daycare. But yeah, and my husband, he works, and we're both military veterans.
Oh, wow.
Oh, you're waiting for me? Hi, my name is Tanika Love. I am a life coach, published author, mother-in-law to Zico, and I'm a graduate of Monroe College and Lumen College, my bachelor's in business management and computing.
All right, so y'all all introduce yourselves. I'll introduce myself. I'm Zico. I'm a blogger, photographer. I used to have DreamsForDreams.com and in between websites. I'm trying to figure that out now. And overall, I'm just a black man. I'm just trying to get my word across. And I would like to thank Demetrius for actually inspiring this whole conversation, pulling it together right now. So we basically all here because we all see what's going on. George Floyd was murdered in Minneapolis. So I would first like to start with Demetrius. Like, what inspired you to want to have this conversation today?
Just being on social media and seeing so many different topics of conversation, from COVID-19 to what's going on in Minneapolis, what happened in Georgia. It's a lot going on at once. So I think we all needed a space, because I saw Frank with great dialogue. And I said, why not put that together and have a forum where we're all able to speak and share ideas and agree and disagree, because that's what the world needs now, is people to pick a side, to find out where they are in this war that's being waged on Black people for about 400 or 500 years now.
Okay. So Frank, you want to take a chance? What was your thoughts on the George Floyd tape? I know you saw the video.
Yeah, and it's I wish I didn't see it. It's a motif, right? It's a motif in American history, right? We see something for whatever wrong or right he may have done, right? We see someone arrested, and we see officers not show restraint against a Black man when we've seen them show restraint for other folks, right? We've seen weeks ago that protesters in Michigan, the AR-15s in their face, screaming in their face, spilling them, pushing them, right? And they have restraint. But for this Black man with his hands not being handcuffed already, you on his neck for 7 minutes, 53 seconds. I think it's the straw that broke the camel's back, right? Although there's been a million of straws, right? Like there's a straw every other week. Folks are home, agitated, pandemic outside, things are shut down, and we see this video on top of other videos that he released. I think that was the one that, nah, enough is enough, right? And I think that's the reason why we're seeing the multiple demonstrations in states across this country, because what do we do now? You can't leave us alone in a pandemic. That means you don't plan on ever leaving us alone. So.
Right, Cassandra, how do you feel about the whole George Floyd case?
It gets kind of irritating. Yeah, overall, it gets kind of irritating because for the most part, prior to me joining the military, there were certain things that I didn't have to deal with because I wasn't surrounded by a bunch of ignorant white people. But these are like ignorant white people that I actually served with that are supposed to be protecting the country. And a lot of the shit that they're posting is just racist and, oh, they need to be shot and they're acting like animals and blah, blah, blah. And I'm just sitting there and I was like, we do the same fucking thing. We go to other countries and blow up entire countries, killing kids and everything. So it's not any different over here because we got more freedom. So it's like it gets real irritating seeing that, because it's like these are people that are supposed to be able to kill somebody for me if I was in that position, but it seems like they'd be the one to shoot me in the back. That's actually one of the reasons why I got out the military, because as pro-Black as I am, it was really problematic with what I believed in, with having to listen to people say fucked up shit about, sorry for cursing, but I have to listen to people say fucked up shit about Black people, and it's like, I can't say nothing or else. It's like, you say something, we're taking your pay. You say something, we're taking your rank. So it's like, what I did was basically keep my fucking mouth shut and get out, and then they have to pay me for the rest of my life. It's just like, I'm claiming all these disabilities, you're gonna run me my check every month, and I'm chilling.
Tanika, what's your take on the whole George Floyd case right now?
Well, there are some times where I become emotionally invested in situations because of who I am. So naturally, I'm emotionally invested because of who I am. However, I'm also invested because, again, I'm Black. I have Black sons, grandsons, uncles, brothers that are out there. And this can be any one of them. And I know that if it was any one of them, then my position would be a lot more forceful, to say the least. So it doesn't take away from the fact that we have been dealing with racial inequality and injustice and been oppressed for many, many years. And fear keeps us from doing something. At this point, we can't allow fear to keep us from moving forward and demanding justice, not just for George Floyd, but for all people. And it's just as simple as that.
All right, so as we stand today, one of the officers has been charged with third-degree murder, which is a charge that carries up to 25 years possible. And he's also been charged with manslaughter, which carry a charge of 10 years. But there's still people that says those charges are not enough. He should be charged with first-degree murder. Mm-hmm. First-degree murder will mean the state will have to prove premeditation.
Yeah.
So with that information, what would you guys like to say about that? Do you think that the charges is enough? Should they be escalated? And I also should add that they still can be escalated at this point.
Can I take a stab at it?
Yeah, go ahead, Frank.
Yeah, right. So actually last night my plan was to research what other officers involved in police killings have been charged with, right? Because I was looking up on so third degree manslaughter in other states is the equivalent of involuntary manslaughter, right? So part of it is killing without the intent to cause death, right? So that seemed like a cop out, right? But then I thought the higher you make the initial charge, I think the easier it is for him to get off, right? Because then you have to prove more, right? So yeah. I was bothered by it, but I'm like, if you give a cop first degree, right, knowing that officers typically get off, then you're putting the burden on proof on the victim way more than I think possible at this point, right? Especially with an officer. So I mean, I rather. It sucks. I wish it wasn't maybe second degree, but if you start at third degree, then you can always you can always argue up, right, and get it bumped up, as opposed to something really high and have to argue towards that. So I get it, and just from my knowledge and memory, I do think that in most cases third degree is a lot of charge, right? Like so, Amadou Diallo, right? The cops were on trial for manslaughter. Ridiculous because 41 shots, right? But I do think it is really hard. To argue first degree against agent of the state. So,
yeah. Anybody like to respond next? GP, like what you think about the third degree charge?
Kind of like you said, from what I've read, third degree is probably the best case scenario for what we saw happen. For me personally, just seeing him, I didn't actually watch the full video, but what I'm hearing, a matter of 8 minutes, 10 minutes, you kind of know what you're doing after a certain period of time. So that for me brings in the premeditation part. It's like, well, I know what I'm doing at 10 seconds, 30 seconds, a minute, 5 minutes. So I think based off the law and how he could get off, third degree likely is the best case scenario. It sucks that it even has to go to court, because if it's the other way around, if it's an attempt on an officer's life, if it's an attempt on a state official's life, these things don't take this long to go to trial. The guy's getting locked up. The apprehension is quick and fast, but this was, I'm not sure, 24. It was a long time, and you had officers surrounding this guy's house. And off topic is like, which one of these cops have enough guts to say this guy was wrong? We're going to walk in and arrest him and take him in, even if there's no charges ready for him yet. Like that's why it's systemic, because it's not just one, it's not just two, it's hundreds. 100 people stood outside of his home, but any one of those men could have took the onus upon themselves and went and put him in handcuffs, just off principle.
Yeah. So, Tanika, Cassandra, any of y'all would like to chime in? Third degree murder charge?
I wanted to add that, like, just from him being on him, he was wrong for that in general, because he was already in handcuffs. And there's rules of engagement. And I've worked with people for years and years, and you notice that police brutality is not something you hear about in the military. And we all have guns. And there's Black people in the military. We know how to de-escalate a situation, and cops should know how to also.
Yeah.
There's 19-year-old kids that know how to de-escalate a situation, but police officers, as soon as they see somebody, their first reaction is, I need to hold my weapon up, or I need to detain them by putting my entire body weight on their neck. Like, that's not normal. So, like, just him in general doing that to him was wrong, because that guy, for one, wasn't resisting, and he was already in handcuffs. I didn't even watch the whole video, but I see in pieces, I seen that, like, he was down on the ground with his hands behind his back because he was in handcuffs. So there was no reason for all of them to be on him, because there was 3 men on him, and they had to be at least 200 pounds each.
So Tanika, before you respond to the third degree murder charge, let me just throw this at you. How do you feel about him being granted $500,000 bail, and he's already out of jail already? I mean, how do you feel about that?
Out of jail?
It hasn't even been, less than 24 hours.
It has been less than 24 hours, and yes, he's out of jail. Apparently,
10%.
Yeah, it's definitely
That's wild.
An outrage. It's an insult, to say the least. The fact that he was able to make bail is
they even allowed him to have
that in itself says what type of justice we're gonna get.
Mm-hmm.
So with that being said, if we don't do something, nothing is gonna, this incident, this is not going to change what is instilled. And unless we do something drastic, it's not going to go away. Apparently, his wife is filing for divorce. Yeah, that's just basically to protect their assets. Because of course there's going to be a civil suit. There's no way. There's a lot of information that's coming out. Apparently, they worked together for a number of years. If you haven't seen, this officer alone has about 8 complaints against him.
Mm-hmm.
Been involved with several shootings, and
2 fatal shootings as well.
Yeah, exactly. So
I think it was over 18 reports of police brutality on just that one officer, and then his partner, Fong. He has 2 fatal shootings on his case as well.
Absolutely. So just right there alone tells you that just him being arrested is not enough. The 3rd-degree murder charge, that's not even gonna stick, honestly. Some way, somehow, because they're already starting to discredit George. They're already saying that because it's that little window where you couldn't even see the interaction between the police and him, they're already saying that that is what caused his death. When you can clearly see that he was murdered. He was murdered. The man even asked, after he's been begging for his life and asking for him to get off his neck, he was like, what do you want? What do you want? He's like, I can't breathe. At that point, when you ask him, what do you want? And I can't breathe, and he's still doing it, he is doing it on purpose.
Since you brought that up, let me just ask you guys to respond to this. Coroner office has came out and they said that they found no signs of strangulation, that it was a mixture of intoxication, previous health issues, and being restrained by the police is what led to his death. Benjamin Crump, the family attorney, he's calling for independent coroner to do their own autopsy. So, like, who would like to respond to that right there?
That's bullshit.
Well, we all know that's bullshit. And just like in Sandra Bland's case, they had to hire their own coroner to do the autopsy. And they hired a Black woman. And they did a thorough investigation. And it came back the results that it was confirmed that she did commit suicide, but it was aided. It was definitely aided. They knew her history. They knew her history of mental illness. They knew her history of suicide attempts. They knew if they put the pressure on her.
Well, she didn't need to be there in the first place.
Exactly. If she wasn't there in the first place, it wouldn't have happened. However, they knew. And they knew that once she made it out, she would make it a problem for them. So they aided her.
Frank, how do you feel about the autopsy? The coroner coming out saying that there's no signs of strangulation.
I would like to see an independent autopsy as well, right? Because from what we see, right, I don't know, I guess no one here is a sign or people, right? But it does appear that if you're on someone's neck, that will cause some type of complications. So I'm assuming that has something to do with it for sure. That's what it looks like. He did go limp. I mean, while he's being strangled, you see, for 2 minutes he's unconscious, right? Probably not dead yet, but unconscious. So I don't know if they're saying that it's not a direct result of that. Then I would argue that, and I would like an independent autopsy to see what's what, because their coroner can say whatever, right? So
yeah, I wanted to add to that.
Oh, go ahead, Cassandra.
Yeah. So when it comes to them saying that wasn't the cause of death or whatever the case is, there's plenty of people with a ton of medical issues. And it's if you put someone under enough stress, that can cause them to die. Say if he was being strangled, but he died of a heart attack, it's still their fault.
Yeah.
Right.
Because they put him under that stress. I'm sorry if you guys hear my daughter yelling.
Yeah, that's right. It's all good.
But yeah, it's still his fault, regardless of them saying, oh, well, he had a heart attack, or oh, he had a breathing condition. Or I was like, okay, but y'all escalated it and you put him in that stress to make it flare up. So
DP, how you feel about what the coroner had to say about the cause of death?
I'm not surprised, because these organizations work hand in hand with each other. But like you've all been saying, an independent autopsy should be done. But this is also a case of inducing shock trauma on a person. Everybody has some sort of condition, or maybe asthma, or maybe bronchitis, but if an external factor comes in, it actually helps those conditions to flare up or to become or to worsen, and that's likely what happened. So logically, he's still at fault.
Okay. So another thing that's been going on lately is there's 4 cops involved with the arrest of George Floyd, and so far only one has been charged. How do you guys feel about the other 3 cops not being charged yet? The DA is saying charges still might be coming, but they also not cooperating with the case. So how do you guys feel? Like, do y'all think they should be arrested as well? Or?
Absolutely.
Yep.
Absolutely. They aided. They held that man down. There was 3 of them that held him down while one stood guard. They all participated in the murder of him.
Or they didn't try to stop it either.
Yeah, I mean,
They weren't
me,
going to stop it. They weren't going to.
Exactly.
Right.
And I think if you with a group of people, like if I'm out with you guys and you guys are about to fight, and I know you got a family to go home to, and I let you fight and I let you get beat up, I'm just as wrong.
Mm-hmm.
And also if I see you about to hurt somebody or murder somebody and I allow it, I'm just as wrong. But these cops are supposedly trained professionals. You know, they go through intensive training, 6 months or however many months it is, depending on whatever department you're with. We're not trained like that, but we still have the wherewithal to say stop, to say that's enough. It's a breaking point to all these matters. And, you know, for an officer to sit and watch another officer just in that position on a human being for 2 minutes, for 5 minutes, plus, and so on, you're just as guilty, if not more. Because here's the thing: with the officer on the guy's neck, he's probably filled with adrenaline. So it's not like he's not himself. But me, I'm sitting here watching this thing go on, and I'm like, yo, this is too much. Like, stop. Come on, bro, it's enough. Like, come. I mean, me personally, I'm just taking what I can get because we got one. It's hard to get one. So if the other 3 don't get charges or they don't get
we can't
arrested, just give me something.
We can't accept. Just give me something, though.
No, we can't. But that's what I'm saying. That's what we always gotten. And if you're gonna look at the future, you gotta look at history. What's going to change?
We have to change.
Yeah, expand on that, Tanika. Let's say what you was trying to say about how do you feel about the other 3 cops not being arrested right now?
But definitely, it's appalling that they're not in custody. They all had a hand in his murder. They, at the point of contact where he was in handcuffs, he was no longer a threat if you felt like he was a threat. 1. 2, they had him down on the ground, face down. There was no reason why he had to be held down, pinned down by 3 individuals. There was no reason. It was intent. And that is the problem. And if we accept just one, then we're accepting what happened at the end of the day. They all have to be held accountable. And anyone who does not support that is not really seeing a problem.
Cassandra and Frank, y'all would like to respond?
Yeah, it's more, I do agree with to do change or to have change, it literally starts with us. And it's just like, because that whole the marching and the cardboard signs and that shit is not working.
No, that's not working
at all. Like when I seen them burning everything down, and I was like, that's clearly what it takes. Because from the man being shot in Georgia from the jogging, it took them how many weeks to arrest anybody? It took them weeks. And all the people down in Georgia, all they were doing was just having peaceful protests. And here, it was, 5 days before that guy got arrested? And that's because they were burning that city down. Police station too. And it's just going to keep escalating and keep escalating to the point where it's like people are going to be comfortable with putting a gun up to a cop. And it shouldn't have to get to that point, but it's just like, we need to reciprocate the energy that we're getting. It's
Absolutely.
just, you're okay with killing us, then we're going to be okay with killing you.
Absolutely.
And I think once we start actually being like really, really afraid of us, like having an actual reason to be afraid of us, that's when they'll probably fucking stop.
So, well, since you brought up the protest, how do you guys feel about the unrest that's been going on? It's been spreading all over the country. So, DP, I know you said you're from Baltimore, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, Baltimore recently just had the Freddie Gray case where everybody got acquitted there too, right? And it was riots, and during those times, people were basically kind of saying the same thing about this whole destroying your own neighborhood narrative. So, like, I would like to start with you with this. How do you feel about the protests? What you think for protest versus riot? What you think?
I'm 50-50, but I'm really tired of seeing protests.
Mm-hmm.
We're 20 years into the 21st century, and we've been doing protesting for generations now. Part of me is like, yeah, burn it down. It's not ours. But the other side of me too is like, some of my friends work at these places that are burning down. Some of my friends own these businesses that are burning down. And now you have an influx of people who don't live in these communities or coming from suburban areas or other towns for the thrill.
Yeah.
And you know what I'm saying? So it's kind of undermining why we're rioting, and the media is like just turning the camera on African Americans, and it's like all our fault. But we're just reacting from generations and centuries of racism, and it's like peacefully, no; riot, no; protest, no. We get into certain offices, and we get Obama at the top office, no; we get congressmen, no. What do you want us to do now? And it's like, and I do agree that that all the officers should face charges. But I think it's also a slap in the face that when these officers are charged and they go through the courts, but they're found not guilty.
Mm-hmm.
And it's almost like a
question.
You know what I'm saying? And that's a pacifier.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? Like, and I understand we want everybody to see justice, but they're not giving it to us. And for me personally, it's some fights that I know I can't win. It's some fights that I know my family can't win or people can't win, because the fire has been set and been brewed for so long that guns to officers' heads and violence, we got that from them.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? African people aren't a violent people. When you go to Africa, they welcome us.
Yeah.
We welcome, like hip hop. We welcome the Eminems. We welcome the other races to be able to come in and make money and do what we do, but it's not the same in reverse.
Mm-hmm.
So us being violent is actually playing into their hands. As much as we want to see people, quote unquote, get their just due, or we want to return the favor, that's not who we are genetically.
But sometimes it's who we have to become.
Yeah.
In order,
definitely.
we have to become who they are in order to fight them fair.
It is their system.
And it's kind of fucked up because they don't want that. They really don't want, like, if we acted like how white people treat us, or just how the cops treat us, there would be no police department at all.
Absolutely.
That's why they're so scared.
My concern is, where is all the gangbangers and gangsters and all of those individuals that are out there killing for just
us
wrong? But no one is standing up or willing to die for a cause. We're dying for nothing. Why
they're
not
even willing to get arrested over it.
It's
like they're not even willing to get arrested. It's like
or die.
Frank, it's been a while since we heard from you. Like, what's your thoughts on the whole protest right now?
Yeah, like so in the ideal world, right? I guess organized chaos is impossible, right? So looting and rioting and brand building are all derivative of a riot, right? So I get it. Like, yes, we wish that didn't happen, right? We wish Killer Mike's places weren't getting destroyed. However, you know what I mean? But like this, when people are provoked, right, and you respond and you react, this is what happens, right? Like, so like the buildings burning, the places on car, the homes destroyed, like no one like necessarily wants to do it. And yes, you have some folks there who are just flaming the fires, right? Who aren't really for the protest, right? But this is all the derivative of riot, right? Like when throughout history, right? I'm pretty sure that everybody in the Boston Tea Party didn't give a shit, right? Some folks just wanted to destroy stuff, right? When people, the Arab Spring, right? Where multiple governments in North Africa and the Middle East were overturned, right? Odds are you have folks there, I mean, who just wanted to see shit burn, right? But when you all do things like this is what you have to deal with, right? So I empathize with people who are losing stuff, right? Companies getting destroyed, but also, I mean, Target is insured, right? They can buy that stuff back, right? Like
all businesses should be insured at this point.
Like Killer Mike T.I.'s buildings, I get it, y'all black, I rob with y'all, but you're a black millionaires, your businesses will be okay, right? George Floyd is gone forever, Breonna Taylor is forever gone, Eric Garner forever gone, Amara forever gone. I mean, so like I don't. To me, that's not really a trade-off, right? Like
exactly.
But for deaths, businesses have to burn. I mean, and I mean, it is what it is.
Exactly.
Yeah. So.
Exactly. Cassandra, did you get a chance to chime in on the protest?
Well, I was just saying that I agree with them. Like, if they have to burn whole cities down, then let them burn cities down, because at the end of the day, there's always an effect from a cause. So wait, cause and effect. Y'all know what I mean. But like, it's just like, okay, you don't want people rioting, you don't want people protesting, you don't want buildings burning, then stop killing us. And that's literally all that we're asking for. Like, you don't want all this other shit to happen. All you have to do is stop killing us. But if they keep killing us, shit's gonna be burning. People are going to riot. Like, shit is just going to keep getting worse when all we're literally asking them to do is to stop killing us.
Absolutely.
That's literally it. Like, there's no conversation after that. It should be like, okay, we'll stop shooting you. And they have nothing else to worry about.
And if folks are saying, I mean, like, well, go vote, run for office. I mean, as if it's that simple, right? Like, this country that took 400 years, right, and built a country that worked for some and not others. Do you really think they're willing to relinquish power that easily, right? Like, money funds campaigns, right? So, like, how many campaigns will they allow people who look like us, who want to represent us, to win, right? Like, realistically, it's just like, we're only 30% of the population, right? And there's even less than that of us in office. So how many campaigns or offices do you think we will actually win before things change? I mean, so when people say vote and run for office, like, it sounds good, but is it a realistic end result? No, right? Because realistically, we don't have the manpower, the money, I mean, to win some of these really consequential offices, right? So it's just not possible, right? So I get it. It sounds cool. Kumbaya seems like a good way to appease, I mean, what's going on, but it doesn't necessarily work, right? Like, we had a whole black president for 8 years, right? And not a knock on him, but much wasn't changed, right? Not much will change, right? This is still a pro-white, white supremacist system, right? And as we continue to move forward, agendas that promote and continue to help white people will be pushed forward, right? And everyone else will take a backseat to that. So as long as this country thrives in the way that it was built, no amount of voting for public office will help people who look like you and I. So
absolutely.
That's not a realistic, I mean, a solution to this issue.
Well, since you brought up Obama, Frank, you know, Sean came, and I do want to before I know you have to go, Frank, but
So
I want to take some time to make sure we touch on Breonna Taylor. But just since you brought up the Obama thing, Sean King, activist, he's called out Obama, saying that Obama basically didn't use his Department of Justice to fight for the rights of black citizens in America. And during Obama's time, we had some of the most impactful cases: Trayvon Martin, Eric Garner, Oscar Grant, Mike Brown, and there's absolutely no conviction in none. Freddie Gray, none of those cases was any conviction locally, and the Justice Department stepped in, did investigations, and nothing came federally. So, how do you guys feel about what Sean King had to say, basically about Obama basically not doing enough with his Department of Justice for black folks?
You don't mind if I go first?
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, thank you.
I think we touched on this, some of it in the chat, right? Like, yeah, we don't want to put on the onus on Obama, right? But ironically, right, Trump is probably the least politically savvy president of all time, but he's the one who's weaponized the DOJ to his benefit the most, right? So if someone as politically unsavvy as he could weaponize the DOJ, then I mean, how about for actual cases, right? So it sucks, right? Like there's, I don't know how true it is, but Erica Garner said that Obama told her that he would step in for Erica Garner and didn't, which sounds okay because I just say stuff, especially when there's no cameras around. I can say whatever I want and don't hold me accountable.
Yeah,
right? So I mean, that is likely happening, right? So the critique I think is a valid one, right? Even if it is grandstanding, right? Even if you know nothing's gonna happen, right? I think folks would like the attempt, right, for him to look stern, right? I think there was the time where a Harvard professor was pulled over, right? And what he did was invite both people to his house and to a football game. I mean, that looks cool, right? But how about for all the other non-presidents that get pulled over and stopped, right? That end up getting arrested, beaten, and killed. Like, how about them, right? Like, they don't get the chance to go to the White House, I mean, to enjoy dinner and watch a game. So, like, this is your DOJ, right? Like, they're at your disposal, right? This is your administration. You, like, I know. We know how politics work. One person doesn't change everything, right? But I think the fact that there was very little attempt and he wasn't as vocal as folks would like to see, especially speaking out against a lot of these, I think that's why the critique is valid and that's why folks are upset. Like you won, I mean, because, I mean, at one time, black folks turned out like they never did before. You swept through states in the primaries, right? States that people didn't have you winning, and then you kind of won the general pretty easily, right? Like mainly because I mean, folks supported you, right? You talk a certain way. You acted a bit more liberal than you actually were. You got this darker skinned black woman as a wife who's really accomplished. So yeah, you have everything that worked, that looks like it works. But then once you got in there, not much was actually changed to help us, right? And I think more than actual change, because there was a Congress and a Senate, he didn't have the majority the second term, right? But things are hard, but there wasn't even the attempt. And I think that's what folks are the most upset about, right? Like it's like things stayed absolutely the same once he got in office, and I think that's the reason.
Yeah. It was fair.
Yeah.
Fear of being black.
Yeah.
Basically,
being too black.
They needed to look perfect because they needed to be the symbol for black people. But we didn't need that. We didn't need perfect. We needed a rebel. We needed someone that was going to come in and demand change for our people. That's what we needed. And fear kept them from doing all of that.
Yeah, I don't know if any of you guys watched Becoming on Netflix.
Yes.
And I remember like in the very beginning, which made me super sad, was that she was saying that she pretty much silenced herself.
Yes.
Because of how people were treating her. Like she was too outspoken and she was given the stereotype of being like the loud black woman and people calling her a monkey. And she literally was just like, I'm just not going to say anything and I'm just going to stand back and let my husband do what he has to do. And it's just like, so she was vocal at one point, but it was just like she saw the backlash and just like backed away from it. And I was like,
who's that? Michelle
Obama.
Yeah, Michelle Obama.
Yes.
Oh shit.
Yeah, she saw the backlash, and that's why she just kind of backed away and was just like, I'm just going to let my husband handle everything. And that's kind of like how I see it. That's how I would see it if Obama was as vocal as he should have been. Like with me, that's how I know I can't go into politics, because I don't care. And
Right.
people aren't going to vote for that. Like, I'll hurt everybody's feelings, and then I'm just going to be the one person on the ballot, and they're like, who's this? Like, that would have been me, because...
You see, my thing with that is, I get that the first term, but the second term, like, what the fuck you got to lose?
And I do want to push back on that a little bit, Sandra. I mean, with all due respect. Yes, I hear Michelle is saying, but in her book, Becoming, right, she was critical of Jeremiah Wright. Remember the pastor, right? It was controversial.
Okay. Yeah,
She's
yeah,
critical of him, right? And if you look, it's what 12 years later, Jeremiah Wright he was right? At the time, it was politically inconvenient, but he was right? So she's critical, and she also made statements how people like Jeremiah Wright act like white people are to blame to everything wrong with in the Black community. I'm like, well, who else is to blame? I mean, like who else do we blame? So I get it. Michelle Obama said that, but I do believe that there's a time where you reach a certain privilege that I think you kind of get blinded to certain things. So yeah, I think she was correct, but I have heard some problematic statements about her as well in regards to race that I'm like, I mean, this actually falls in line with what we're critiquing your husband of. So it is a double-edged sword. It is a two-sided fence.
DP, you want to respond about Sean King and Obama?
As much as we, dislike Trump, but I feel like he's the really conservative version of who we needed Obama to be.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So
go ahead, talk about
it. So like you said, the second term is like, yo, I'm on my way out. I should just have at it now. I should just shoot my shot and just, if I miss, I miss. If I make, I make. But for me personally, I always said every other quote unquote demographic got something out of the deal, but Black people, gays respectfully got something out of the deal. Police officers got something out of the deal, and respect to them. But here's the thing about Black people: we don't want to take over anything. We just want equitable treatment all the way around. You know what I'm saying? So all I ask from Obama is, where's the deliverance for us? Where's the civil rights amendments in those 8 years? Like there are none.
Nothing. But that was my whole beef with Obama too.
You can go and say, the 13th, that was for us, but at the same time it worked against us because it ended slavery, but it said, hey, here's an out. You can still enslave them if they're caught committing a crime.
Mm-hmm.
And Obama had 8 long years, and you had, like you said, you had Freddie Gray, you had
Trayvon Martin,
had countless people like Trayvon Martin. Like you gotta think about the names we named, but the people that we didn't name throughout Obama's 8 years, and it was prime time for a civil rights amendment. Something not for minority, but for Black people. For Black people, like we say minority, but the spot on word is Black, African American people.
And let's be honest, Obama's biggest claim is being the first Black president. Like nothing he would have been able to do is going to take away from him being the first Black president. So look out for that Black. Like you bailed everybody else out, he ain't bail us out. So that's a fair criticism if you ask me from Sean King. I know, Cassandra, you say you don't really fuck with Sean King too heavy, but
I mean, I'm not far from her opinion. I mean, we spoke about the Zico. I have my opinions on Sean King. I have my opinions on most activists who become big celebrities, right? It's hard for me to tell how much of it is like activism or how much of it is performative, right? So I don't know. I mean, I appreciate, the brother, for what he does, but a lot of it does come off as self-serving, right? He had this really lavish, 40th birthday party. There's the North Star that we don't know what's going on with that, right? It's looking like a Umar Johnson school kind of thing at this point. So I don't, So I don't I mean, it's still early, you know what I mean? But I don't know, right? So yeah, so I think he's a good brother, you know what I mean? I've been the benefit of that, but I'll be lying if I tell you some things didn't rub me the wrong way, or if I could believe fully, you know what I mean, for who he claims he is. So yeah, I'm more in line with a Mark Lamont Hill, right?
Okay.
People that like folks who I think are the same all the time, people who I think will be the absolute same if the cameras and lights weren't on, right? So yeah.
Would I like to respond or move on?
I don't know who Sean King is, and they probably don't want to know. So
Sean King, cool, by my book. I don't know that. I think for me, if you're not going the Malcolm route, if you're not able to walk that path, then just stay out. And that's my thing with sometimes the protests. You have people that are out there for the pictures, the captions, the likes, the views.
And that's what I was about to say. Like, it gets to a point where, are you willing to die to live your best life? Because that's where we at right now. And those protesters out there, yeah, it's all fine and dandy to go out there and riot and protest and be loud. But when the heat is really on, do you back down? And that's the problem. You run. We can't run because
too many people running.
If you're gonna be out there, you're gonna be out there. You're gonna be out there to the end, and you're gonna go all the way. Not halfway in. Not pretend to be a rebel and just rebel. That's my question. Are you a rebel, or you just like to rebel? You just like to go with the norm because it seems good. It seems like a great idea at the moment. But are you in it for the long haul? Are you in it for a lifetime? Because this is a lifetime fight. This is not just a today fight or tomorrow fight. This is a lifetime thing.
Exactly.
All right. So, let's move on. I want to talk about the murder of Breonna Taylor. So, if you're not familiar, she's, 29-year-old EMT worker in Louisville, Kentucky, if I'm not mistaken. She was home. Police did a no-knock warrant, came in, and over 80 shots was fired. Her boyfriend, he returned fire. He shot 2 police officers. She was killed in the melee. He was arrested. And now it's been sort of this conversation on social media about that her case is not being as covered as the Ahmaud Arbery case or the George Taylor case. And it's leaving some Black females to feel like that the death of Black women is not as important to America. Even Black men don't care as much. So I would like to start with maybe Cassandra and Tanika, since y'all are the Black women on the panel tonight. How do y'all feel about the way Black women murders is covered in media?
I actually had this conversation last night, right before I went to sleep, with other female Marines, and they said the exact same thing. It's just like it's like pretty much that nobody really cares about Black women, and they were including Black men, and I was like, well, I don't think that's necessarily true, but there's a lot of negativity when it comes to Black women. So for the most part, I personally feel like a lot of people don't care about us. So when we're killed by the police, or even if we're in some type of abusive relationship, like if something's bad happening to a Black woman, it's one of those, she'll get over it, and because we're strong. And we have all these stereotypes of we have to overcome everything and we have to be strong about everything. So when something happens to us, it's just like, okay, they'll get over it. And that's how, in my eyes, that's how I always see it. And even with her death, it's just like no one's paying attention to it. No one's talking about it. No one's freaking burning their city down. And it's just like, oh, well, it's just a Black woman. Her family will get over it. Like, so that's how I see it.
Tanika?
I absolutely agree. They're talking more about the boyfriend that's being arrested than the woman who was killed. So it's definitely heartbreaking, to say the least. We women, we ourselves, we have been oppressed by not just white, by all. And that's the problem, because we're not valued, we're not appreciated, we're not loved, and we're not considered equal.
DP, Frank, when y'all two like to respond?
I do agree with everything both have said. And I think what we've seen is likely because what we're able to see. I'm not sure if there was video of the situation with Breonna Taylor, but we did see a guy get killed. And if you ever watched The Wire, in season 5, it was basically talked about the media and how media works and how they pick and choose situations to cover, and you know what I'm saying, what will bring about the most feedback. Because when we were young, it was right. So when we were young, Martin and Seinfeld were in the ratings war and all these different shows. But now, your eyewitness news in your neighborhood is in a ratings war with CNN and CNN versus Fox, and you got MSNBC. So in those boardrooms, those guys are saying, hey, I got this over here. Hey, I got this over here. No, it's not right. But again, that's the world we live in. But to you ladies and to the ladies out there, that the true men, and it's not about being an alpha male. I hate that term. But the true men and and men who care, we do want to hear your stories of abuse. So if you're in an abusive relationship, there are men out there who will assist you in whatever you need. If you need a way out, I know I personally would be the one to call for that. Just saying the real men care. Sometimes we got to count out the people that we know that don't. If you feel like men from a certain category don't care about you, you just don't account for those. But there are men who do care. There are men who want more equitable situations for our women, and for ourselves as Black men as well, and as well as for Black people as a whole.
I'd be foolish if I didn't admit, and I mean that there was a disparity, right? Black women definitely get covered less, right? And I do think that we have to look in the mirror at ourselves and wonder why that is. I will also say that what DP said, right? That I think there's more of a sensationalism, right, with the body of a Black man being killed, right? I do think we have to be cognizant of how much the media owns. You know what I mean? What they own and how they control what we see, right? So not for nothing, but these white publications have shown us George Floyd and Ahmaud Arbery more than or Trayvon Martin and Mike Brown, more than they showed us Sandra Bland or Rika Floyd or Breonna Taylor, right? And that's also part of it. I mean, a lot of that I think is just out of our personal hands, right? This is also a patriarchal, male-dominated, male-catered society, right? So when those things happen, right, they're gonna show the images of the Black man, the Black male body being mutilated, being destroyed just more often, right? And I think that's a lot of reasons for the constant plasters of images and videos and shares and stories on social media, right? And I think that this form of conditioning, right, to catering for men and dominating men is something that we've all been conditioned by, right? Like even on social media, like more women are sharing Ahmaud Arbery and George Floyd even more than Breonna Taylor, right? So I get it, right? But I think that at some level, conditioning, I mean, affects all of us, and definitely, just not to pay blame on anyone, but it's just that's what we see more often, right? We can do better at looking in the mirror and saying, nah, let's share the spotlight. And also in Louisville, they did burn Louisville down for Breonna Taylor, right? Like they went out, like they held it down for it. And I mean, like Louisville was one of the first cities that got really violent, like in a quick amount of time. Like Minnesota took them a while to get crazy, but Louisville, they sparked up, right? They're like, nah, like let's go rock for us too. You know what I mean? So I will say that folks in Louisville, I mean, held it down. Louisville is relatively smaller than some of the other cities we've seen, but folks went down, I mean, and they wrote for her as well. So I completely agree. We do have to be better in how much we value and cover, and I mean, what's happening to Black women as well. I'm saying, like in the patriarchal society, there's reasons why we see Ahmaud Arbery and we see the hashtag for George Floyd way more often than we see Breonna Taylor or George Floyd or Rika Floyd or Sandra Bland.
There's a movie called The Birth of a Nation
Mm-hmm.
from like the 1930s or something like that, and it's basically like a white guy playing a black guy, and he does something to a female, and just a bunch of it's a whole movie of a bunch of white men chasing after a black guy.
Mm-hmm.
And at the end of the movie, they killed the black guy. So while we're sitting here and we're getting, we're upset, we're frustrated seeing a black person be killed in the street, there is a section, and also a subculture of society that's hyped off of those images, that get excited seeing the black man killed, because it restores those images of a birth of a nation. And the media knows this. These old white men that own these networks, probably feel the same way when they watch it. They feel an excitement, and they get an adrenaline rush from these visuals. So I mean, again, this is how it all started. Birth of a Nation was actually one of the first motion picture movies ever released. Yeah. So I mean, whatever the media can do, whatever Hollywood can do to recreate those images, and which will bring in money for them or bring eyeballs to their channel, their viewers, best believe they're going to do that.
Yeah, and just if we're being and this is somewhat controversial, but not so much. You hear what I'm saying, right? The ability and the type and ability of the black male body is just more like entertained, like fetishized, just in history, right? Like we fall in love with what football players can do, how they look. Everyone love each other. And I mean, like white women want a black guy, right? So I think there's just an over fascination with the capabilities of the black body that even when we're mutilated and murdered, I mean, it's plastered everywhere and sensationalized. So I think we also can't leave that out of it, right? Like the if the black guy goes to Iowa, he's the talk of the town, right? Now I mean, like all the white women want to throw themselves at him, right? But also, if the black man is killed and mutilated on TV, right, that's plastered everywhere for us on our Instagrams or on our TV screens and like that. So I think there's this dichotomy of over fascination, I mean, with the capability of the black body, but also the destruction of it, right? There's images of black men hanging, right, back in the 40s, 50s, 60s, right? And now, I mean, like if you take a poll, every girl from every race wants each other, right? Like, or LeBron James, right? Like, so it's just it's a thing, right? It's a over fetishization and it's an over. I mean, it's a over desire for males and the male black body that this happens, right? Even white women make bigger butts. I mean, they want bigger butts to attract more black men, right? So it's a thing, right? And I mean, like, it's a thing. Like, so think about the Kardashians. So it's a thing, and it's a reason for that, right? There's this fascination, whether good or bad, with the black male, and I think that's part of why we see what we see as well.
So I'm gonna let Cassandra and Tanika. Do y'all want to anything else y'all want to chime in on this topic?
I did want to add on to that, and I don't mean to get personal, but that's literally kind of like my life right now, because as I stated earlier, is that I have a stepdaughter, and her mom is white. But prior to my husband meeting me, and like years and years ago, like when he was a teenager, I can already tell that he was hella anti-black. And I didn't know him as a teenager because we didn't live in the same city. But I soon understood, even though I don't agree, I understood how he could grow up like that when I met his mom and I met his whole
context. Is your husband is white?
No, my husband's black.
Oh, okay.
No, when I met my husband's family, they don't like dark-skinned black women. So it's like his entire family hates me. And to make it worse is like, they don't like that I'm dark-skinned and black. They don't like that I'm educated. They don't like that I have my shit together. Like, they cannot stand me. But they are best friends with his baby mother, who was white and extremely problematic. So, like, we have full custody of my stepdaughter, but years and years ago, when I first met her, it was more of her stepdaughter saying that, like, she was better than me because she was lighter skin and had nice curly hair. And then her mom was just like, I'm just jealous of her because I'm not light skinned and have long hair and all this other shit. And it's just like, when I actually moved to Pittsburgh, that's when I started seeing it, that all of the black men, all of them had white women with them. And not only just regular white women, they were problematic white women that hated Black women. And I'm just sitting here and I was like, how could they, like, it didn't add up to me in my head. And meeting my husband's mom, she was okay with it. Like, when I got pregnant, she would like rub my stomach and be like, oh, I can't wait for your baby to be born. I hope they're light skinned with nice hair. So she called my stomach, called my daughter before she was born the golden boo-boo, because she wanted her to have golden skin as a light skin.
Yeah. And this is your husband's mom?
Yes, my mother-in-law.
Who's probably also a darker skinned woman?
No, she's actually pretty fair skinned, but all of her sons are dark skinned.
Okay,
all
yeah.
Her sons are dark skinned, their father's dark skinned, but like in that entire city of Pittsburgh, like it's either light skin or white, and then all the Black dark skinned women are just like pushed aside. And that's something that I noticed, and it kind of irritated me, because not only do I have custody of now my stepdaughter who's light skinned, but now I have an actual like daughter that I gave birth to that's dark skinned. And it's like I'm trying to teach my stepdaughter to make her understand that they're going to be treated differently. Because even now, his family treats my daughter differently. Like, nobody calls and asks about her or sees her or anything, but they'll call and see how Shay is, or want to see how Shay's my oldest daughter. They'll want to spend time with Shay or have her go over their house, but nobody calls and asks about my daughter. Nobody calls and asks about me. His family won't talk to me on Facebook because they don't want people to see that she's interacting with me, or that they're interacting with me.
That's insane. I don't even.
So that's why we were okay with just moving, because it's just like, I don't want to raise my kids around that, and I don't want to be around it, and he doesn't either. So.
Did your daughter realize that? Like, did she realize that she's being treated differently?
She realizes now. When she was younger, when her mom would say jokes about like my skin color and stuff, she would laugh about it. We actually put her in therapy, and she had like a therapist. That's and cool. Because we put her in therapy because she had to draw a picture of herself at school, and she literally drew herself as like this white kid with blonde hair and blue eyes, and it was bad. So we got her in therapy, but she like understands that they're going to be treated differently. It's not so much of an issue now. When her mom talks about me now, you can see in her face that she's really uncomfortable. So it's just like, before it was like she would laugh because it'd be like, oh, my mom's being mean and it's funny. And now it's just like she's quiet and doesn't say anything. She just looks uncomfortable, and you can see it in her face. And it's like, I hate that she has to be in this position, because I'm never the type to say anything crazy in front of a child. But her mom is the type to do stuff like that because she feels like she can. Typical white woman shit. So.
Sorry she had to go through that. Sorry you have to go through that.
I mean, I'm dealing.
So, nigga, you want to respond?
I got lost in the shuffle.
Yeah.
Oh, VP.
Go ahead, VP.
Yeah.
Well, he was talking about fetishizing Black people, and I was just like, that's exactly what happens. Like, all of them women up there have Black kids with Black men and hate Black people.
Yeah, that's tough.
And I made that post. I don't know if you saw my post about like all the rioting and stuff that was going on. I literally posted, and it was like, oh, I thought a white woman that has Black kids and a Black boyfriend had something to say. Because it's just like, I don't hear shit from them posting none of that. Any other day, they want to talk about Black culture this, and my Black kids this, and my Black kids that. And now shit's happening, and their Facebook is real fucking quiet.
Absolutely, and that's the problem.
I'm actually going to post that as well. Go ahead. I'm sorry to cut you off.
We as Black people, we are learning from the womb the wrong things. Like, we're being indoctrinated.
For sure.
We're being indoctrinated as soon as you come out of the womb.
Yeah.
Like, your parent, me personally, your parents take you to get christened. Your God is white with blue eyes and long hair.
Yep.
Every other ethnicity and demographic on earth has their own God, except for the Black people in America. The Chinese or the Asians have Buddhism or Hinduism. Europeans, white people in America have Roman Catholicism, Protestant, Methodist. But Black people, we latch on to mainly Christianity.
Yeah.
So when they show you your God is white, you're going to grow up with a complex, whether you want to or not.
Mm-hmm.
I just had a
And
conversation yesterday with a security guard, and I'm like, I don't need a church or anyone to tell me to do right or to do wrong. That's a form of control. That's something that you should already know. You were born with everything in you to succeed in life. You were born with free will and with love. Everything else is taught and learned. You have the choice at the end of the day on what you're going to do with that information. Knowing who you are, you can change how you respond to life.
He wanted to finish it.
So so for me, I don't really, I don't subscribe to Christianity. I do like to live in a psyche in which I don't know what God looks like. I just know there's a higher power. And there's descendant from Africa, which all of us are. We practice animism or just core principles of spirituality and also voodoo. But when we were colonized, and I hate to see it, but the people who colonized us called how we worship witchcraft.
Mm-hmm.
So to go and watch some of these black pastors call saging and being in tune with your energies witchcraft, it just shows the indoctrination at the highest level of black people, in which they're using to control the narrative that black people should continue to worship a white Jesus Christ. You know what I'm saying? Like all the prophets that we know the names of, they're all white. And I think, in America, if you're from the southeastern United States or the West Indies, you learn religion via slavery.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? And in the newer movie, Birth of a Nation, which the guy Nat Turner, he was a preacher, and he was a preacher for his slave owner to help control the slaves, so that they would work harder, that they would eat. So he said to himself, he was like, "Yo, this is just me doing my slave master's work."
Mm-hmm.
And I remember it was a part of the movie. He said he read, "Be to your slave master like you will be to Jesus." So you're aligning them both in the same.
Exactly.
You know what I'm saying? So it's for me, it's deeper than rap. Yeah, I don't think it calls for the African American to be Christian. They gave us Christianity, then they go and bomb our churches. They go bomb. They set fires to crosses in our yards. Like, what do you want us to do here? You know what I'm saying? So just go back and learn if you can, or learn to be in tune with yourself, or go and learn how we worship in Africa before any of this ever happened.
Absolutely. I was just saying, knowledge of self is just power. And yes, we were taught to praise a white Jesus, that he was the way through God. Now, how is that possible? There is no man that is powerful enough to give us life. So why are we praying, or why are we worshiping someone that can't do more for us than we can do for ourselves? It's about changing your mind, changing how you think, your perspective and your perception, and accountability and ownership. If you live by that, then you'll be responsible for you and your own actions. If you learn the power of love, you'll be more kind to others. You'll be more considerate, more compassionate, because the way of life is through spiritual intelligence. And that's what we should be trying to achieve, spiritual intelligence.
Exactly. I always tell, I be having this argument with people about how they compare the black community to the Hasidic Jews, and I'm always trying to explain to them, like, no matter all of the struggle that the Hasidic Jews been through, one thing that they was always able to keep was their religion. A lot of us, we was torn from our tribes in Africa, but all over the world, all over the Caribbean, all over America. Like, we don't have that sense of like real culture. Like, you know what I'm saying? So I try to explain that to people. Like, our struggle is not the same as the Hasidic Jews. You know what I mean? Like, even if you take, like, most people, like you was talking about with Nat Turner, most people that is like taught to praise God and stuff is literally, they know that we was given this religion during slavery to keep us enslaved, but yet they still like praying to that God. That's a certain level of trauma that's like, it's going to take years and years and centuries to break. That's not going to happen overnight. And people just like, they find that so hard to believe. Like, the city Jews went through this and they went through that. You guys just like, all right, that's cool, but like, no matter what, like, they've been Hasidic Jews. They wasn't Hasidic Jews, and then when they was forced to turn into something else, they always went back to being Hasidic Jews. Cause like, you know what I'm saying? But to close out though, I just want to, unless anybody have anything else that wants to touch on that topic.
No. Basically, just we have to see it in order to believe it instead of believing it, then we'll see it. So because we have to see it, that's why we were given a vision of a man, a person that is supposed to represent our Creator, because that's what people believe. They believe that they have to see something in order for it to be true. And it's about changing your mind. It's really about changing your mindset and how you think and how you choose to live your life. It's about unlearning everything that you were taught and teaching yourself, educating yourself, empowering yourself to be better and become better.
All right, so in closing, so I'm gonna let you guys go. I want you each to answer this because this is a question I've seen CNN asking a lot of these protesters that was out there. So, like, exactly what would justice look like for you guys, and just in general in America for Black men, for the Black woman? Like, what does justice look like? Let's start with you, DP, and since you're at the top, Frank, and then we just go down, Cassandra, Tanika. And then that's just how we want to end it off. What are y'all looking for?
Personally, I don't think that justice for the Black people in America can be achieved because our country was not built with Black people in mind, receiving justice or even being a person. I'm not certain, but I think we're still counting as 3/5 of a person. We still don't have full citizenship here. I think for myself and for a multitude of Black people that the true justice would be going back to Africa and creating our own communities and living life how we want to live, one, and two, how we lived before, the transatlantic slave trade. But, like Noah's Ark, you can't take everybody. And like the other lady was saying, a lot of people have to unlearn things that will simply just take too much time to unlearn. And so you got to kind of pick with the people that you have that are on the same wavelength as you and find a place, whether it's here in America in a small town or you migrate to Africa or Europe, like let's say like Richard Wright, and live life how life is supposed to be lived, not here in America with, African Americans still being the subjects of bloodshed and injustice.
So Frank?
Yeah, I do think that folks who are critiquing, I see all on Facebook that like, what's it doing? This is not justice. Like, what's it gaining? I do think that they're a bit short-sighted, right? These protests are about George Floyd, but they're of course bigger than that, right? And I don't think we're looking for singular justice, right? I think we're looking for like drastic change, right? And drastic change can't happen at one time, right? So yes, these cops get acquitted, right? But that's not far enough. And let's say these cops get convicted, right? That's not far enough, right? Let's say the killers of Breonna Taylor get convicted. That's not like, these things aren't far enough, right? There'd be like, I guess there'll be cool starting pillars, right? But I mean, we need like better funded schools. We need better resource communities. We need more affordable housing. We need a higher representation of people in office. We need more white people admitted to a lot of these prestigious colleges, right? I think, and to not to counter DP, because I hear you fully and I agree with most of that, right? But I'm just saying that I do think it's a tad unfair for folks who helped build this country up, right, to kind of eventually have to leave it, right? So I do think that safe haven needs to be accomplished here, right? Because a lot of these great cities, right, were built by Black folks, right? A lot of these great colleges were built by Black folks, right? So why can't they reap the benefits and enjoy some of this great product that they've helped, that they've added to, right? Hip hop has made more white people rich than it has Black folks, right? So I mean, so like that's just it, right? So we have to, when you have damn, who to do Irene, right? Jimmy Irene, right? Like Interscope, you know what I mean? Like Interscope is built on I mean, 90s on, right, is Dr. Dre's back, right? Dre and them, right? That's hip hop, right? So a lot of his fortune, or Rick Rubin, right? Like, these are people who are mega rich off of the labor of Black folks, right? And not only the Black rappers, right? The Black boys on the corner, I mean, bebopping, right? Or the Black kids on the train, right? Like all of that, like, have added to these folks' wealth. So I do think that there needs to be consideration for Black folks here, right? And there needs to be things created for Black folks here, and we do need widespread systemic change, right? So yes, arresting the folks who killed George Floyd, Breonna Taylor, everyone else, that's the start, right? But that's not what this is about, right? We need a revolution is a drastic change, right? We do need a drastic change to the system, right? And I do think we need a place for Black folks to enjoy here and feel comfortable, right? White people move them out here, right? This building, right? We pay $3,000 in rent. Most of this building is white, right? They jog in our neighborhoods all the time. Brooklyn is ours, right? None of them have the fear of being killed or beat up when they run, right? So that's just like we need to think about that, right? Like, I'm someone who you see me, I'm on a scaffold everywhere, right? Like, sometimes I try places I don't even think. I could have been on Mount Aubrey, right? Like, I travel somewhere, I drop my bag, I go out to run, right? Go out to work out. I don't even think like, damn, people don't want me there, right? So I'm fully on board with, yes, folks commissioning back to like where it originally came from, but the folks who built this country, I think it would do them a disservice to have to leave, right, and not bear the fruits of their great labor. So
Absolutely.
That's cool.
That's justice for me. Justice is world change.
Mm-hmm.
Change for everyone, where you can go anywhere in the world and be who you are. We were born to live in greatness. We weren't born to live the way we are living. So justice for me is true change, real world change, for everyone to be treated like a human being, which is the true race we are, human. Where's humanity?
So for what I feel like needs to be accomplished is basically just the dismantle of white supremacy. I took notes because my mind runs a mile a minute. But basically, once that gets taken down, which I honestly don't even see as possible because there's so many people in power and they're not willing to give it up. But that would be like to get rid of all the people that are pretty much in the government, because they're making laws that are hindering the Black community. So that would all have to go. The entire power structure would have to go. We would have to be able to educate majority of the white people, because apparently they don't know shit about Black people or what we go through, or they just be acting clueless. We need to be able to make sure that the Black community has education, financial literacy, funding, all of that. Like, all of that stuff we need to address mental health in the Black community. We need to address social conditioning, update the fucking history books, because a lot of shit in there is not true. And things like sociology needed to start being taught from like fucking middle school, because there's too many people on top of like the government and stuff. There's just a lot of people that don't fucking understand the structure. And anytime we decide to say something, it's just like they don't believe us and go on about their business, which makes it harder for us to get a job in the future because they don't want to hire this Black person or that Black person because of fucking stereotypes. So it's a lot to fucking unpack, and I honestly don't think that it will happen because it would make white people uncomfortable, and they don't like that. Even with just fucking conversation, they don't like that. So
this is a lifelong revolution. It's a lifetime. It's an everyday fight, because when we let up just one moment, things could change. So it's an everyday fight to fight for what you deserve.
So everybody want to get any final thoughts, final words in?
I feel the need to say this to the people out there that are Black, especially in the Western Hemisphere. There is a stigma attached to the word Black, the N-word, by some members of the West Indian community, where you're talking about Jamaicans or Haitians. But what I feel the need to say is that we're all Black. Like, whether nobody knows where you come from, they just see a Black person, you get called the N-word. It's not the time to be divisive and say I'm not Black or I'm not the N-word. This is a like the other young lady said, this is a worldwide war going on that we all need to come in and join hands about. I do feel as though darker skinned Aboriginals from India and Australia are not a part of this fight, because when they do get the opportunity to come to America and work jobs, whether it's high end or service sector jobs, they do act whiter than some white people. They're just as racist as some white people I've experienced. But I think the African diaspora needs to truly form together. And we might be from Jamaica, we might be from Haiti, we might be from the United States, but we are all from that western region of Africa at the end of the day.
Mm-hmm.
Any last words from anybody else?
What about you?
Well, justice for me. But I don't know, because I'm just at the point where I don't think justice in America for Black men is like possible, because it's like I think Cassandra was saying, like, it would take like breaking down the whole construct of the country. This country wasn't built for Black men. Like when they was writing the Constitution, we was literally like property. So that's like they wasn't thinking about the other livestock they had, like the cows and chickens, when they was writing the Constitution. So in all reality, we not really a part of this. But like Frank was saying, we deserve to be a part of it because this country was built on our backs. But until like white privilege and white supremacy and those laws get broken down, there's nothing we could really do. That's why I'm not mad at nobody for protesting or rioting or any way they want to express themselves, because look, they frustrated and there's nothing you could do. They're not even willing to do, like, if they say we want all four of them arrested, they're not even willing to spare the city to just arrest him. They would have to send 75 police officers to protect him. Like, you know how much money that was costing them to protect that one police officer while the whole city was burning and nobody was down there? So that's to let y'all know the value. Like, all these Black people sitting there worrying about Target and worrying about AutoZone. The police wasn't worried about Target. They wasn't worried about AutoZone. They was all protecting their buddies. There's 75 to 80 police officers protecting one man. How much did that cost that city? So that's to show you, like, the value. And then another thing that be irking me is this whole burning down my neighborhood and your own neighborhoods. If it was our neighborhoods, we'll be able to choose the police. We'll be able to try the police on our own. We'll be able to convict or quit the police. Like, you know what I mean? If it's our neighborhood.
None if it's ours.
It's not. Like, even if
I pay something for not mine. Go ahead, my fault.
Even if you, they say it's black-owned business. Killer Mike and T.I. are multimillionaires, and I'm pretty sure
they'll be okay.
That they don't own those bills. They don't even own those businesses straight up. They missed 2 payments, 3 payments. It's going right to foreclosure. The real owner comes for that. There ain't no such thing as black-owned in this country. So I don't expect justice. So, like, that's why I don't really have no. Just send him to jail. And then if I could predict what's going to happen, he's going to get 12 years. Because if you listen to the DA, that's what they gave the Muslim cop, what's his name? Starting the jury.
Yeah.
He shot the Australian white lady in Minnesota. They literally charging him with the same thing. And if you listen to the DA, he's basically telling you that's what's going to happen. That's why we went with that, because that's how we got him. We about to get him. But he's a scapegoat. The other 3 is going to skate, and that's just my prediction. And that's why I'm not mad if nobody wanted to go burn shit down.
Absolutely.
There's never been a peaceful revolution. That's dumb.
None.
And everybody that's left to quote Martin Luther King, they only quote Martin Luther King up.
The first half of his life.
I have a dream speech.
Yeah.
Like they don't like the 4th quarter when son was like, I was bugging.
Yeah. I mean, like Malcolm. I mean, or when he denounced. I mean, Vietnam. I mean, like, or white liberals. I mean, he was tired of this. I mean, and that's why I also don't like how we try to put Malcolm and Martin against each other, right? Because towards the end of his life, they've actually kind of met in the middle, right? Like they were separate early on, but I think like Malcolm was like, okay, I went to Mecca, right? I realized, I mean, that everybody everywhere ain't the issue, is this American system, right? And Martin was like, I mean, I think I'm with you, you know what I mean? Like these people will never be with us, you know what I mean? So I think towards like, unfortunately, Malcolm passed at 65, but I mean, towards late 60s, they weren't so much here. They were like coming towards here. You know what I mean? So
at the end of the day, they both died violently.
Yeah, right. Regardless of what they wanted. You know what I mean? So both ways didn't work. You know what I mean, they took out this nigga one way, they both took out the same way. So regardless of what they wanted, both didn't work. All right. So
one common.
Stop using that.
Martin Luther King, as peaceful as he is, he would be considered a criminal today because he does have a criminal record.
And he was a gun owner. Right, he was also a gun owner, right? Like
but look at his life.
Yeah,
he's been attacked with dogs. He's been stabbed.
Spit in
his face. Shot. Like, come on, like. So as peaceful as he wanted to be, that shows you can be the most peaceful man in the world. Look how they're gonna do you.
Exactly.
They're
not gonna take you serious. They're not
black. That's how they're gonna do you. And if they could do that to the most peaceful man in the world, and still do it to Malcolm, who actually never really get violent.
Never.
The most violence happened to him was when he died. Shit, they firebombed his house. He was alright. Nobody got hurt. Mm-hmm. He'd be alright.
Malcolm ain't touched nobody. You know what I mean? So
like, come on. So, and they still, how many shots they hit? They murdered him. So it's all good. It's like, I don't know what the black man can do. Just stay low.
Yeah.
Can't stay low. We have to fight. We have to fight anyway. Right. Any means necessary at this point, because again, we're gonna die for nothing.
With our hands up, right? Yeah. Don't quote Mandela. Know what I mean, apartheid wasn't sweet. Know what I mean, that was brutal. Know what I mean, it still isn't sweet. Know what I mean, like people now want to kick white folks off the land, like get out of here. Know what I mean, violently. So I mean, like he was in jail for almost 30 years for no reason. Know what I mean, like that wasn't peaceful, right? So I don't know. I don't know what example throughout history we have of things being achieved through just kumayas, right? That's just not how this works, right? This country wasn't founded on kumbaya, right? This country didn't expand on kumbaya. So how can it be more equitable on kumbaya? That just doesn't. I mean, it doesn't add up.
Right. So DP, Cassandra, y'all have anything like I want to leave off with?
No, I'm good.
I said it all.
So I would like to thank y'all all for participating. I'd like to thank you for reaching out.
Thank you.
This is great.